1911. We're actually the oldest waterfowl conservation organization in the continent. And Delta started as strictly a student research program where we were studying ducks because we knew that duck numbers were decreasing or soon would be decreasing, and we wanted to know more about them. Currently, Delta Waterfowl funds between 20 to 30 research students a year. And these are folks that are working on their advanced degrees, master's degrees in either waterfowl biology, ecology. And when Delta Waterfowl sponsors these students, they're working on a very specific project, which as soon as their project is completed, they give a peer-reviewed report, goes into a publication. Once it's publicized, then that information becomes science.
Okay.
So several of the biologists who are working for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Canadian Fish and Wildlife Service, Ducks Unlimited, local state agencies are Delta graduates.
So going through the 20 to 30 each year, do you know, like, can you tell us some of the research that they've done?
Probably the most important research going on right now for the Great Lakes region that we have would be the SCOP decline that they're studying. We've been losing numbers of bluebills, and we're not exactly sure why yet. And we're working in association with Long Point Waterfowl Research Station in Long Point, Ontario, to try to figure out what's going on. There's some belief it could be selenium intake. The bluebills are eating that and it's affecting their egg production, but we're really not quite sure yet. Okay. So that will have a major impact on Michigan duck hunters.
So for our non-duck hunting families that are watching this program, we understand the mallard, and we see a lot of those around.
Lots of them.
We see some wood ducks, and we see Canadian goose. What is a bluebill?
A bluebill.
And then you kind of, in our opening part, you talked about the seabirds and the deep divers, and then.
Yes. Yep. Okay. A bluebill is the official name is the lesser scop or the greater scop. They have exactly what it sounds like. They have a very bright blue bill, a very beautiful bird, and they were very, very abundant quite a few years ago. The numbers have been declining. We still have a good number of bluebills, but they're on the way down.
So are they native to Michigan? Or
they are, okay. Yes. They're native to Michigan. They are a diving duck, which means they go below the surface of the water to find their food source, sometimes up to 80 feet or deeper, to find what they need to eat. And so the question is, are they eating some of the mollusks that are on the bottom of the lake? People will see them when they go to take off. They skittle across the top of the water.
Right, yeah.
So you see it, and then they build up their speed and take off. Where a puddle duck, like a mallard, will simply burst out of the water and jump straight up.
Okay. Now you talked a little bit about the selenium up north because in the 37th district we have large cormorant population problems in places like Beaver Island Archipelago and over on the far eastern side there in Cedarville. Are you seeing that they're getting pressure from the cormorants or any of those other sort of predatory birds that are out there?
I haven't seen any research about that, so I haven't seen anything. I do know that there are a lot of cormorants out there. We fish off the Lake Chanels, and there's a lot of birds out that way. But the bluebills will typically not be in the same areas as the cormorants. A bluebill does not eat fish like the cormorant does, so there's a different fight for the food source there. So, but it'd be interesting research.
Yeah,
but I'm not aware if that's occurring or not.
Yeah. Now going back to the biology students, the 20 to 30, do we have them working at any of our state universities, or are they out-of-state schools?
Yeah, they're out-of-state schools. Delta Waterfowl has our scientific research director out of Louisiana State University, and but in fact, I just spoke with some Michigan State folks that are kind of interested in getting involved with that. So, but we do have some Michigan ties at Delta Waterfowl. Dr. Miles Perney was very active at MSU and the Kellogg Sanctuary, and so some of his research has helped into what Delta Waterfowl is doing today.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the mallards and the puddles, and we talked about the deep divers. So there's the bluebill, and are there any other deep divers in that group?
We have several deep divers. Okay. We have the bufflehead, which is a very tiny black and white duck. People usually see them late in the season, just before the ice comes on.
And those would habitat in Michigan, or do
yes,
they? Okay.
Yes, they're native to Michigan.
Okay.
We also have the redhead, which is a diving duck. Okay. We have canvasbacks.
Right.
There's the bluebills, of course. Sure. And I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's other species that I'm missing.
Those are the big ones. Okay, so then we do that, and then you touch on the aspect of seabirds. And so are those birds that maybe come in from the Atlantic and the Pacific flyways? Is that how that works out? Primarily
from the Atlantic flyways or from Hudson Bay. Okay. We will have some nesting seabirds, typically the long-tailed duck that will nest in like Lake Superior along the St. Mary's River route up in that area, northern parts of Lake Huron, Lake Michigan. but typically they're going to migrate down from the bigger bodies of water such as Hudson Bay or the Atlantic Ocean.
Very good. So those would be the types of things that would be on the licensing aspect of things. And I had the privilege of going with your organization on one of my first duck hunts, which was a wonderful experience.
Good.
Now,
Yes, we had a good time.
To talk through this, for a typical listener, you have to go on the DNR website and sign up for what?
If
Or you
were,
can go to your hunting and fishing store.
You could go to any place that sells Michigan hunting or fishing licenses. If you're 16 years of age or older, you have to have a Michigan small game license. You need to have a Michigan waterfowl hunting license, and then a federal waterfowl stamp. And it's the federal stamps right now are $15. But that federal stamp is so important to waterfowl hunting. And the reason it's important is because duck hunters are paying primarily for the research of ducks and geese to the habitat. We pay for the habitat. So waterfowl hunters and people from everywhere get to enjoy the ducks and geese, but we are paying to have those birds still around to this day.
And so the process for the Michigan licensing as we move forward, because as we're taping this, we're just really have the January season for goose, right?
That's correct. In the southern part of the Lower Peninsula, the goose season opens in January.
Okay, and that would be really about the only other sort of duck waterfowl hunting you can do for the rest of 2009 and 2010, before the new season takes over.
Yes.
So the beauty would be is that when our people go and buy and the new licenses come out January or April 1, I think. Is that about right?
That sounds about right.
And so they could get a discount if they bought their small game, their duck license, if you get a multiple license. So that helps with some of the savings.
Yes.
So they get that. Now, you can't use a rifle. You've got to use a shotgun.
You have to use a shotgun.
Okay.
It has to be plugged to hold no more than 3 rounds in the chamber and magazine combined, which means you put 1 in the chamber and then you can put 2 in the magazine.
Okay.
And the gun actually has to have a stopper that won't allow an extra shell to be put in there.
Okay.
Waterfowl hunting also requires use of non-toxic shot because years ago when we had lead shot, birds were ingesting the lead and dying from lead poisoning.
Really?
So there was a ban federally to require non-toxic shot.
Okay. And so now, what are the types of places that if you can go to your Delta Waterfowl website, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's deltawaterfowl.org.
.org.
Yep.
And do they have sort of like what your packing list is that you need to go on a hunt, or how do you get
yes,
that laid out?
we have quite a extensive amount of information on our website, all the way from the beginning hunter to the person that wants to know about the biology of waterfowl. Delta Waterfowl is very active in ensuring hunting ducks and geese in the United States and Canada. So we do a lot with youth programs. We do a lot of women's hunts. In fact, we did a women's hunt right here in the greater Lansing area with some cheerleaders.
Oh, really?
And we had a great time. The girls got a lot of shooting in.
Oh, wow.
And they did very well. So Delta really is working hard to secure the future of waterfowl and waterfowl hunting.
So going through sort of the initial hunting kit, you had us bring in sort of heavy rubber boots. Can you kind of go through and tell us what we need to load in?
There's 2 ways to hunt waterfowl. There's the economical way, and then there's the over-the-top way.
Okay.
And anybody can really get started fairly simplistically to go waterfowl hunting. I would say the most important thing is to have a good shotgun, because you don't want to get hurt. You want a gun that's going to function properly. So you can get anything from a $300 shotgun all the way up to endless numbers. Right. You're going to want to have some dry clothing, some warm clothing. It doesn't have to be camouflaged. I think a lot of camouflage is designed for the hunter because we like to have different patterns. We want to match the surroundings. But more importantly, waterfowl don't see the human shape as a human. They see movement. So I think if you've got something that blends into the natural background, could be anything from a brown coat to green pants, just don't move when the ducks are coming. Keep your head down. A good hat, you're going to want a hat. Probably a good pair of waterproof boots as well. So
fairly simple. If you can come up with a shotgun and some basic sort of darker colored clothing, you're in business. And,
absolutely.
And then non-toxic shells, which you can get at any vendor where you're probably buying a license.
Absolutely. They're usually hand in hand.
So then the next process is getting permission to go hunting. Now, how does that work? I know that the state and our great conservation, we have many state lands that you can access, and then you also have private properties.